What is up, everybody? We are breaking down this PFL 2021 number 9 card. Is the third event of the playoffs. Loughnane, Khaybulaev at the top. I am definitely looking forward. I think that potentially the best PFL card we've had all season long. Playoff action, good showcase fights. Lots to talk about, as I said. I'm super pumped. Make sure you guys smash that like button. I need at least 150 likes on this PFL full card breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss any coverage this week. We have UFC and PFL, extremely high level action. We'll throw out this week's best MMA bets. It's going to be coming up either tomorrow or Wednesday, really depending on all the props being released. But looking forward to that. I do want to get into this PFL card. Shout out to everybody watching live or replay. Much love to all my people who are tuning in to today's show. But without further ado, we got to get into it. It is the first fight of the night, all the way down at the bottom. Jacob Kilburn, UFC veteran. Brandon Jenkins, on the rise prospect. Has some fights over at LFA. Kilburn is moving up from 145. His recent loss at this point doesn't look bad. It was against Austin Lingo. He was released from the UFC. After that, he now comes over to PFL, jumping up a weight class, takes on Brandon Jenkins. With Jenkins, you have a pretty quick kickboxer. He's comfortable out of both stances, and he does cut off the cage fairly well. Good low kicks to control distance. I like what I've seen from Jenkins at a lower level, though, taking on Kilburn, who was, not necessarily, high level inside of the UFC, but he did get some quality experience there. He's a pretty solid striker, is a bit hittable down the center at times, but that was against a really slick boxer in Austin Lingo. He sets up good level changes when he's on top. He is hard to deal with from there. I think that this fight here is competitive for the 3 rounds. I think that the odds being even actually makes a lot of sense here. Looking at Brandon Jenkins' record, I do want to double check something. The losses tend to be via decision. I mean, he does have one flying knee loss, but you can't really hate on a man for that because those flying knee KOs usually come out of nowhere. I think Kilburn will have a slight advantage in the grappling department, potentially a technical edge striking, though it won't be easy to deal with the taller Jenkins. Close decision, potentially split decision. I like Jacob Kilburn in this matchup. Odds-wise, he is sitting at the plus 118 underdog to Jenkins at the minus 123 favorite. There are some props available. That's good. Kilburn wins by a decision, plus 275. Fight goes the distance. Is that available? It is minus 155 for that. I think that's also a pretty good bet. I like Kilburn, win by a decision over Brandon Jenkins in our first fight of the night. Let's keep on moving up the card. It is Alejandro Flores versus Deaton the third. Flores was on the Contender Series. He fought against Rafael Alves, lost that fight. Deaton, interestingly enough, coming off a loss against Jonas Flock, who we saw fight last week. On the side of Flores, you have a pretty loose striker, is confident in his stand-up game, rips low kicks well, solid straight punches, a little bit of looping hooks that he'll occasionally throw out there, but really does move well laterally. On the other side, Deaton, I would say he's a pretty solid striker who is light on his feet. He likes to close distance and come in with straight punch flurry, so I really do think we're in store for an exciting striking match, but the size difference is a big factor. Flores controls range well already. Now attribute in the advantage, 73 to 68.5 inch reach, 5'10" to 5'6". I like Alejandro Flores, and I think he wins this fight. He's won fights by decision fairly recently in the past. It really doesn't look like Deaton's all that chinny. He seems like a pretty durable guy. I see a loss to Vince Murdoch, has 1 KO loss, and that was back in 2013. I feel like there's a chance we're looking at 3 rounds here. But I'm liking the odds of 3rd round KO in favor of Alejandro Flores. I'm going to pick him late by KO, but could still potentially see this fight going the distance. Odds-wise, Flores is a huge -320 favorite. Deaton +279. I don't like how widespread the odds are, just because it's not like either guy's extremely proven. But, you know, Flores being as big as a favorite as he was, you would think that he would be one of these Dagestani prospects. I mean, he's a massive -320 favorite here. Fight goes the distance, -190. Fight inside the distance, +150. Over 2.5, -205. Flores, if you are to bet him to win inside the distance, as of right now, it is plus money at +230. For him by decision, -110. I think he could get that late TKO here, but I'm not loving throwing money at it. We'll see when the KO prop drops, if it does drop. But I like Flores here. Potential parlay addition with him over Carl Deaton III. Next fight of the night, and if you guys haven't yet, smash that like button. As I said, need at least 150 likes on this full card breakdown, but let's talk about it. It's Jason Knight versus Bobby Moffett. Knight, former BKFC fighter, had the legendary 2 fights with Artem Lobov, where his face was essentially smashed. I mean, both of their faces were really like hanging off the amount of cuts that they had. He's won an MMA fight since then, and then he also had the bare-knuckle MMA fight against Charles Bennett. Doesn't count officially, but is a true MMA bout. Granted, Bennett's not the best of MMA fighters. He's a scrappy vet. Did actually take down Jason Knight, but nice jiu-jitsu, far ahead of, you know, Crazy Horse. But Bobby Moffett brings a pretty well-rounded skill set. Striking-wise, he has solid Thai boxing skills. His punches are decent. His kicks, he does shine well in. Good takedowns. Defensive wrestling is solid. Jason Knight on the other side does have pretty good jiu-jitsu. I wouldn't say he's offensively the best wrestler. Pressure striker. Very square, though. Straight punches will land at times. And though he has fights in BKFC, he was known as a primarily, you know, slick jiu-jitsu practitioner, good grappler when he was inside of the UFC. He had a bad losing streak there. He hasn't fought the competition to really show me that, you know, he's back at a level that he once was capable of. Moffett, he lost to Bubba Jenkins, split to Barzola, and he has a loss to Bryce Mitchell, where he had okay moments. I think Bobby Moffett's going to win a decision against Jason Knight in this matchup here. Odds-wise, Jason Knight, +110 dog. Bobby Moffett, minus money, but you can even find him at +150 on Betway. Bobby Moffett is a +150 on Betway. That is interesting. You guys might want to check that out as soon as possible because the odds are now shifting. But I like Bobby Moffett, and I do think Moffett wins it by a decision. Odds of that Moffett decision +175, or you could play him straight at near even money, and if you get lucky, even some plus money on Bobby Moffett. But yeah, I'm on Team Moffett here over Jason Knight. Next fight of the night, it is Anthony Dizy versus Jesse Stirn. Little featherweight fight here that I think could deliver with some entertainment. Okay, so let's first talk with Dizy. I almost call him Izzy Dizy. Anthony Dizy. He has a pretty pressure-heavy style. He's going to be looking to engage grappling. He wants to clinch up. He wants to get takedowns. He wants to work that top position, potentially get your back. On the other side, Jesse Stirn actually has some pretty decent trips and takedowns in his own right. Is known for a solid striking game, quick low kicks. Level changes are good. But I feel like Dizy is the better grappler of the two, the physically stronger guy as well. Striking-wise, I think Dizy's going to put a pace and pressure on him. Might not be technically a sound, but I don't think that will matter here. I think Dizy is going to be a tricky fight for Stirn. But again, odds are too wide on some of these these PFL fights. I don't like seeing the odds this widespread. I think Dizy wins, and I think he does win it by a decision. But I don't think he's deserving of a -335 favorite. I don't like that. I think it should be -250 at most here. Dizy -311, Stirn +280. Dizy wins inside the distance +305. I don't see it. Dizy by decision -130. That would be the play. But I'm not loving the idea of the bet. Maybe a parlay edition. I think Dizy wins, and I think probably decision. but very odd, or excuse me, very widespread odds if you're going to be money line playing it. Maybe a decision prop bet there. Something I'll be thinking about for the remaining days coming up in the week before the card. Next fight, Chris Camozzi versus Cory Hendricks. So interesting to see that these guys got left out of the playoffs, but both have wins against guys now in the playoffs in their most recent bout. But that's just how PFL works. It's a point system. Incorrect stat. Cory Hendricks is actually 6'3". Topology is wrong there. With Hendricks, he was an Ultimate Fighter veteran. As far as the skill set that you'll see from him, he's a rangy kickboxer. His punching and kicking game is solid, but doesn't, he has decent pop, but I don't think he has as much power as Chris Camozzi. He's a pretty technical guy who's shown good durability because was nearly knocked out by Nielsen, Hamlet Nielsen in the last fight. So that comeback ability is there. Definitely an X factor is his will to win. We've seen him come back in the past, out on the Ultimate Fighter versus Khalil Roundtree. I like the submission game when he gets fights to the ground. He's very tricky to deal with as far as his grappling goes. On the other side, Chris Camozzi is a tricky southpaw, a little bit of an awkward striking style, but carries real power in his hands, and he's well-rounded. Good takedown defense, good submission defense, good grappling offense from bottom or top position, very pressure-forward style, and he's got power, and he's a guy that is willing to stand in the pocket and trade, and I think he could hurt Cory Hendricks if they do potentially do that. If Camozzi is on top, I can see him controlling position. I can see him potentially getting a TKO finish. I think that this fight goes towards Camozzi edging it out. I could see KO, TKO, or a decision really here, but I am gonna say second round TKO, maybe past the 3-minute mark, but I could see this fight being a 3-round fight. I see Camozzi getting good combinations, and it's going to be how much damage is Cory really able to take here. I do think he will pose a minor threat grappling-wise. If he does get Camozzi out of position, he could definitely catch him in something, but I think Camozzi has the experience to defend off the grappling attacks of Cory Hendricks. Now, odds-wise here, very close. Camozzi about a -107 favorite. Hendricks +112 underdog, but the odds are coming a lot closer, and it's going to be near pick'ems. Camozzi wins by a decision, +180. Camozzi inside the distance, +320. I like Camozzi straight here. Wouldn't play the distance play as far as the props go personally on this one. Let's keep on moving up the card. The featured prelim of the night, Sheymon Moraes versus Cezar Stojadinovic. Cezar in the last one got dominated badly, but they threw him to the wolves and gave him Movlid. That wasn't a matchup that was favorable for him at all. He's a southpaw with a decent kickboxing game. Fights well from the mid-range. Does have some pretty solid straight punches, quick kicks. But takedown defense could potentially be an issue. Granted, it was Movlid who ran over him like that. Sheymon Moraes doesn't bring that type of wrestling game, but what Sheymon does bring is a tricky Thai style. His kickboxing is very good. He's got knockout power, true knockout power, and from range, he has excellent timing with his boxing, especially his straight right hand. Strong in the clinch. I think that's going to be a factor. I think him and Cezar will potentially go to work here and mix it up from the start, and I think Sheymon Moraes can get a first-round knockout in this fight. I think he wins here by KO over Cezar Stojadinovic here. I like Sheymon. Odds-wise, -167 to +169. I think inside the distance, fight ends inside the distance, -175. It's expected to, and I think that it will be Moraes by KO, TKO. Right now, we can look at inside the distance at +130. I think Moraes does pull it off. And I think maybe even under 1.5 +135 isn't terrible either. Definitely a fight I'm looking forward to. Fun showcase bout here in the featherweight division. Now, let's jump to the main card. If you guys have not yet, smash the hell out of that like button. Much love to everybody tuning in, and let's talk about it. It is our first fight on the main card for PFL. It is Cezar Untanchi Ferreira taking on Martin Hamlet Nielsen. I like the fight, and it is a playoff bout. And as I talked about earlier, these guys lost. Cory Hendricks has a submission over Hamlet Nielsen, and he was dominating the fight. Unfortunately, gets choked out. Chris Camozzi put on a very good performance against Cezar Ferreira. That only nearly 2 months ago. Both of them bouncing back after defeats fairly quickly. Less damage was definitely dealt to Hamlet Nielsen. Granted, the style matchup is not easy for Cezar Ferreira here. He's a southpaw who has pretty good kickboxing and good Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. Likes to enter the pocket quickly and mix it up. From range, he has pretty quick kicks. I would say overall, he's a good striker. Hamlet Nielsen, though, brings a very forward pressure style wrestling game. He's going to constantly be shooting for takedowns. He's going to look to clinch up against the cage, trip him, take him down, whatever he can do to put Cezar Ferreira on his back. And I think he will find success doing that to Cezar. The first round will be difficult because Ferreira, when he's at full capacity, is going to be tricky. But I think he will wear down Cezar Ferreira, work towards takedowns. I think unanimous decision win for Martin Hamlet Nielsen in this matchup. Odds-wise, they have him at a -142 favorite and Cezar Ferreira a +164 dog, and I think it will be a decision. Hamlet Nielsen +180 for that win by a decision for him to start off the PFL playoffs. I was hype on him coming into PFL, and I do think he has real potential in this tournament. Next fight, Emiliano Sordi versus Antonio Carlos Jr. So Sordi coming off of the draw with Dan Spawn. Unfortunate point deduction when he was near a TKO. And then no contest against Magalhães for Antonio Carlos Jr. in his last one. Both of them bad results in the last one, but it is what it is. They move forward and are both in the playoff rounds here. Sordi is a pretty solid kickboxer with knockout power in his hands. He actually has some really nice hooks from the close range. His overhand right is powerful and can do damage. Tricky grappling game too. He definitely scrambles well, and when he gets on top, he unloads with some persistent ground and pound. On the other side, Antonio Carlos Jr. brings a pressure striking style, essentially to set up a lot of grappling opportunities, though he will look for power punches. He will look for finishes with his strike. He's not only a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He has very good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. In this matchup here, though, let's remember Sordi, naturally, maybe a little bit bigger of the guy. Carlos Jr. moving up from 85. Granted, he looks big at 205 still. I feel as though Sordi will defend takedowns. I think that he will land powerful punches. And I think Emiliano Sordi can get a KO in this matchup. I think he can knock out Antonio Carlos Jr. in the second round. I know the recent results from Sordi haven't been that same level of impression, but he was knocking everybody out pre-COVID in the last PFL tournament. He knocked out Jordan Johnson, who's a real tricky wrestler. Emiliano Sordi, I think, is going to KO Carlos Jr. and burst his way to the finals. I think potentially against Hamlet Nielsen. We'll see how that holds up at the end of the week. But I think Emiliano Sordi, KO, TKO. The odds, though, have him as a strong underdog. +165 for Sordi as a dog. -140, Carlos Jr. as a favorite. Sordi to win by inside the distance, +365. When the KO, TKO prop drops, I would love to put something on it because I think the plus money will be fantastic. And I do think method of victory, Sordi by KO against Antonio Carlos Jr. Next fight of the night, the co-main event of the evening. It is Chris Wade versus Bubba Badman Jenkins. Fun fight here. Featherweights and tournament championship implications. I am really excited to see Chris Wade back. He's a tricky striker. He's athletic and he's fast. He does have pretty technical kickboxing too and has some finishing ability on the ground. He brings a good Brazilian jiu-jitsu skill set. Also, watch out for his head kicks from the long range. On the other side, Bubba Jenkins is a tricky forward pressure wrestler. He's going to look for takedowns. He also fights out of the southpaw stance. He was able to beat Lance Palmer, and in the last one, he was able to win against Bobby Moffett, UFC veteran. His style is tricky. His boxing skills are not bad. He's been in this game for a very long time. I mean, granted, Chris Wade has more pro fights than him. Bubba Jenkins was in Bellator at points, was always, etching towards the higher levels of the game. And now this is the biggest opportunity of his career. And he takes on Chris Wade, who wasn't a bad fighter inside of the UFC. We'll double check on what his record was there, but I know that it was not bad results. I mean, 4 wins, 2 losses, and his losses to Khaybulaev and Makhachev, actually 5 wins and 2 losses. He left the UFC on a victory to go to PFL. Definitely for that $1 million opportunity. He gets one step closer to it here, but I think he gets halted, and I think win by Bubba Jenkins. Odds do agree. They have Jenkins at -184, Wade at +169. I like decision for Jenkins. That's at -150. Potentially a fight that you just want to sit back and enjoy. Maybe a bet later on in the week, but not too crazy about a bet on this one. But we might end up playing Bubba Jenkins because I do think he's a tricky style, and unless he gets caught, he really should win this fight. Next one, Brendan Loughnane versus Movlid Khaybulaev. All right, so right away you have the Eagles MMA Academy in someone's profile. They're savages. The Russians that train with Khabib are phenomenal grapplers. Movlid, more of the same. He is a pretty heavy wrestler. When he gets on top, it's very hard to get the man off of you. He's got tremendous, persistent ground and pound, but really positional control. Also, his striking game is not bad. He has a bouncy style, good kicks, likes to throw overhands. Really, it's because it also allows him to close distance, clinch up, and get fights to the floor. Likes to do it against the cage. On the other side, though, you have Loughnane, who's a slick kickboxer and has developed really good wrestling defense and even some offensive wrestling in his own right. Really nice combination punching. I think overall, Loughnane can manage the range well and avoid takedowns for a certain amount of time. He also brings in nasty calf kicks. The thing is, Movlid will be relentless with his wrestling style attack. The way to beat Brendan Loughnane is you have to put pressure on him. And I think Movlid Khaybulaev will see that exact game plan, will stick to it. And I think Movlid beats Brendan Loughnane, though as a fan, I'm actually really liking Loughnane, and I would like to potentially see him win the bout because I enjoy his style striking-wise, but I think Movlid has the X factor for him. I think Movlid's going to win this fight. Very hard for me to pick against any of these Eagles MMA guys. They have tremendous grappling games, and I think he's going to beat Brendan Loughnane by a decision in this main event of the evening. The playoff matchups, if they turn out to be what I'm expecting, it would be Movlid versus Bubba Jenkins, and it would be Sordi versus Martin Hamlet Nielsen. Those would be very interesting matchups. Definitely a lot of potential here. So I guess 2 of these guys will be millionaires by the end of 2021. So cannot wait for that opportunities. I think it's great for a lot of these fighters. Solid undercard as well for PFL. I got to say, this is a top of the line card. I would say a PFL card. I love every fight. I have 0 complaints this week about low-level MMA on the PFL card. No, this is all real high-level martial arts guys that are either close to the UFC, like top of the line LFA level, emerging now in the, real worldwide scene with PFL. I really like it. Some UFC veterans, some PFL vets. There's good names throughout. This is an A card for PFL. It's one that you have to tune into. It's on Friday, August 27th. But we are not done yet. Smash that like button if you haven't yet. But we got to talk some parlays. I got to throw a couple at you guys for PFL. We'll go into it way deeper with this week's best MMA bets. But for PFL, we'll do some parlays. On best fight odds, it tends to be all over the place for whatever reason, but we'll still see what we can get through here. All right, if I was to potentially parlay some things up, I like Dizy. I like Deaton, but I don't know if I want to play 2 big favorites like that. Let's see. Bubba Jenkins, Jacob Kilburn the underdog. Hamlet +119 and Anthony Dizy. I think that's a decent play. I also would consider adding in Sordi as an underdog to really give me like a wider spread, more as like, I guess, a Hail Mary type play. Or you bring Movlid in +254, Dizy, Hamlet, and Movlid. I think that's a decently winnable play if you're not crazy about Dizy, and I know some of you probably won't be. I do think Flores should be able to beat Carl Deaton. +258 for those odds. There's definitely some opportunity here. If you want to go nuts, you definitely could, and it could happen. I mean, you could cash it. You could be looking at plus 1,193 if you had Hamlet, Khaybulaev, Flores, Sordi, and Bubba Jenkins. There's always crazy plays that you can make, plus 2,000 if you added in Kilburn, but those are more risky. You know, the more intelligent plays would be, 2-3 fighter max here. So you realistically could play Dizy, Flores, minus 149, add in Hamlet, plus 185. You can take either one of those guys out if you don't like it. You want to play the final fight at the top, main event of the evening, plus 360. We'll go way deeper with this week's best MMA bets for this card, and I'll give you guys a fantastic cross play for the UFC and Bellator that I will be coming up with. Honestly, can't wait for the events this weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed this full card breakdown. It was a fantastic time. As always, smash that like button if you guys haven't yet. I need at least 190 likes on this full card breakdown. Much love to everybody who tuned into the show. Much love, guys. Much love. Lee versus D-Rod. Who do you guys got? I'm on D-Rod, as you guys know. Much love, my people, for tuning in. I appreciate the kind words. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I like that AJ's Army. I like that, man. I like that a lot. Good stuff coming up. Hope you guys enjoyed today's live stream. I definitely enjoyed breaking down the card with you. Honestly, was loving researching this PFL card, especially because of the depth towards it. So definitely going to be a fun weekend. Good fight companion coming up on Friday. Stay tuned for more coverage this week as well. I can't wait, guys. Have a great day, everybody. Peace, guys. See you all in the next live stream.